I never thought I would stand here, in the quiet of my own home, and tell this story. But after all these years, I know it's time someone finally hears what was done to me, what I had to endure just to keep my dignity intact. I used to believe in the promise of loyalty, in the kind of love that lifts you up and makes you feel seen. But that was a lie. Oh, I was fooled once, and it nearly broke me, nearly destroyed the very core of who I was. I met him when I was young, full of hope and fire, eager to build a life with someone who seemed kind and steady, someone I could trust. He was charming, handsome in that way that turns heads, and I believed his words when he promised me the world. I sacrificed everything for that love, my career, my time, my hopes. I thought we had a future, one built on truth and shared dreams. But I was wrong. As the years passed, I watched him grow distant, distracted, always chasing after new opportunities, new fame. He became someone I didn't recognize. His promises turned into hollow words, empty echoes I clung to in the dark. Then came the night I found out the terrible truth. I had been used. He had recorded our moments together, not out of love, but for some twisted game, some sick need for control. I discovered the truth not through words, but through a shadowy message, a whisper in the dark that threatened to undo me. I saw the proof of his betrayal. The recordings meant to shame, to blackmail, to destroy any shred of dignity I had left. That day, my world crumbled, not because he betrayed me, but because I was made to feel I was nothing more than an object, a thing to be used and discarded. All those years I had been silent, believing in the hope that love could save me, that honesty could shield me. But I realized that I had been nothing more than a pawn in his game, a face for his success, a smokescreen behind which he hid his deepest shame. I watched as he paraded his new fame, his new woman, his new life, and I was left in the shadows, my reputation tarnished, my heart shattered. Anger seeped into my bones, colder than the winter nights I endured alone. I could have broken then, cried out to the world for justice, but I knew better. I knew that words would not be enough, that he would deny, that he would spin his lies to keep his image intact. So I began to plot, quietly, with patience born of years of hardship. I whispered truths into the right ears, planted doubts where I knew he'd feel safe. I exploited his weaknesses, his need for control, his fragile ego, turning his own web of deception against him. I fed him false hope, then watched as his carefully crafted reputation began to crack around the edges. The day of reckoning arrived during the biggest event of the year, an industry gala where everyone praised his name, where he strutted like a king. I stood in the crowd, calm, unseen, as I unfolded my plan. I played my part perfectly, luring him into a false sense of security, then unleashing the truth I had kept hidden all these years. I revealed the recordings, the lies, the betrayal, right there in front of everyone whose trust he had stolen. The shock was visible on his face, the color draining from his cheeks. His carefully constructed image shattered as whispers turned into shouts, as faces turned away in disgust. I watched as he scrambled to salvage what little remained of his reputation. but it was too late. The damage was done, and I was gone before the crowd could see me slip away, my heart pounding in my chest. I stayed in the shadows, knowing that my enemies would try to spin the story, to pretend it was all a mistake, that I was irrational or bitter. But I knew the truth. I had taken everything they loved, everything they valued, and I'd done it with quiet resolve, with a clarity that only comes after a lifetime of suffering. I let them believe I was finished, that I had been broken, that I was just a foolish woman who fell for a lie. But inside I was rebuilding myself, forging a new path away from the pain and betrayal. I left behind the fame, the false smile I once wore, and moved to a place where no one knew my name. I learned that true power isn't in the loudest voice, but in the silent strength of knowing you've claimed what was stolen from you, even if it costs you everything else. Now I sit in my quiet house, my hands trembling just a little from age, but my mind as sharp as ever. I know I have finally reclaimed my dignity, even if the cost was my past life. I realize that revenge isn't in the ruin of others, but in the freedom of reclaiming yourself from the shadows they cast. And I can finally breathe, knowing I have taken back my story, my truth, and that no one can take that from me again. So if you're listening, remember this. Sometimes the greatest victory is simply walking away with your soul intact, even if it means losing everything else. Please like, share, and subscribe if you want to hear more stories like this, because every woman deserves to know that her strength is more than what they see on the surface, and her silence can be a weapon more powerful than any shouting.